Tell Islam, girl.
Islam.
And then go say that camera too over there. Go around that way. And then say in that camera too.
Islam.
All right. And so that one is for that.
Islam.
And then go say that camera too over there. Go around that way. And then say in that camera. See, so this one is the
Video.
that's what you just did because it's live. Doing it live.
I want to do it too. I'm going to do another one.
You want to do another Islam again?
Yes.
Go around that side. Okay, go for that. Yo, Omar, you ready? Omar. Yeah. Allah, Father of the universe, Father of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide,
and my salvation.
by night and by day, to His holy prophet, Noble Juali, Islam. Thanks, Brother Durrell. Salute Islam.
Hello.
Be out there all day. Islam was. Prophet warns all Muslims. Governors ordered to read proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must put an end to all radical agitating speeches while at work, in their homes, or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet, or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement, will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their cardin button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Juali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Juali. I'm glad to know that I have few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that I was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. One thing to keep in mind here, but now since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon, that's solely based on Noble Juali having connections with different press people in Chicago during that time. So it wasn't like there wasn't promotion of the Moors. Like newspapers were covering them. The Moors had a parade, they covered it. The Moors had a ball, they covered it. You know, Noble Juali going around to all the different temples to visit them was big news in Chicago. You know what I mean? And if they're advertising there, then they're also advertising in the places where he was going to. Right? Because, you know, outsiders are going to have a limited scope. You know, they're not going to look at this like how they look at the Christian whoever that say they're going to have a convention or whatever. And then they rent some stadium. And then all these people who are part of this denomination go to the stadium, whether it's some Islamic or whether it's whatever like that. Okay, couldn't overdraw all these stuff right there with that. But in the 20s, like that was the impact that he had in the 20s. And then we're going to go through some things today with connecting him with other people who are on the same wavelength. Doesn't even matter what their nationality is or whatever. The objective of being self-sufficient and making sure that the spirit is kept alive, right? That there's always somebody with the torch that's ready to take it. Has to keep it burning. Can't go out, right? And again, looking at from the perspective that if the claim is that he's a prophet, then certain things that he's saying should be considered highly. Especially if it's going in newspapers and you got Europeans and other Asiatics and whoever covering his stuff that he's doing. You got the black papers, they're not covering nothing about this. Right? The African whatever papers, they're not interested. You know? But everybody else is just because he's talking about Moors and all that. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Ali. Now we got doors now. We can shut it out quickly. To the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Islam, this is the instruction from the Prophet Noble Ali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed, that you will be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on. But the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I Noble Ali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see but cannot see, ears to hear but cannot hear, lest they be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving. And they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but will sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah will bless you for your good work. Peace, your Prophet Noble Ali. Islam. There was a video that got uploaded. A video that got uploaded, and before we do that, Try something right here. So video got uploaded by Moors in America, and they were reading this from this website, iuom.org, about the 1872 Religious Corporations Act of Illinois and its connection to the Moor Science Temple. And it would appear that they're coming from a Moor Science Temple perspective because they're talking about meetings or whatever that they go to. But before that, there was something else. What was that? There was something else that was real interesting. This one got sent to me, Brother Izzy. And again, it's just going to show how much we're on the right path and that everybody's using our stuff to try to find some type of escape. So we're just gonna play this. Hopefully this plays right now.
Cities just got to.
All right.
Earlier this month, the 42-year-old named Philip Clay was found dead in Seoul, South Korea from an apparent suicide. Clay was one of an unknown number.
No, that ain't the one.
Sanctuary cities just got a little bit safer. Judges ruled against President Trump's 2017 executive order, saying the government would withhold funding from cities that don't cooperate with ICE. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals ruled yesterday that only Congress can block federal funding. The Department of Justice called the ruling a victory for criminal aliens. Some state governments are opposed to sanctuary policies too. Texas Senate Bill 4, known as the Show Me Your Papers law, allows officers to ask anyone they detain to reveal their immigration status. And opponents say it's enough to keep immigrants from asking for help or reporting crimes. So Catholic parishes in Dallas came up with an idea. They'd start issuing IDs themselves.
Sí, aquí yo le puedo ayudar. Ajá. Necesitan para empezar ser miembros de la iglesia 3 meses o más, mínimo 3 meses.
What sorts of challenges does it present in life to not have a state-issued identification?
Oh my gosh. It's like day and night. To enroll your kids in school, to go to a doctor, open a bank account. If you don't have that, it's really hard. I'm part of a group of people at the church that have been working with the parish ID. We make the announcements at the mass that we are going to be signing people who are interested in getting the parish ID. In the first instance, we have 1,600 people sign up, plus 1,000 new members.
It will not be recognized as an official form of identification, but it will be recognized as a form of identification.
This is police chief or whoever talking right now.
So is that a yes? Yeah.
The idea for parish ID cards was proposed last fall in a meeting between Dallas area police officers and members of the faith community. Josephine Paul has been a lead organizer in Dallas's immigrant community for over 15 years and has strongly opposed SB 4 since its inception.
In the listening sessions, we learned that the most pervasive fear that immigrants had was to report a crime and had been victims of crime. And also, if they had an encounter with a police officer, how they would identify themselves. So as soon as we kind of understood that, then we began, building on the political work that we've been doing with the Dallas Police Department.
We often send our kids to school, and first identification they might get is a student ID, and so that gives them some sense of this is who I am, and the school vouch for me. So I guess with them, this gives them a sense of this is who I am, and my church vouch for me. It has no legal binding, we understand that, but it's not from our perspective that it matters as it does to them.
Esto en el acuerdo que por parte de la Iglesia de la Dios de Dallas se hizo con la policía, de que ustedes tuvieran un documento, en dado caso de que al ir conduciendo les diera una infracción y no tuvieran ustedes con qué identificarse, no los iba a llevar a inmigración, sino que les iba a dar simplemente la identificación, la amonestación, si tenían ustedes esa identificación.
If a police officer in the Dallas Police Department decides that he wants to follow the letter of Senate Bill 4 and that he does not want to accept parish IDs, will that officer be reprimanded?
Oh, of course. I mean, with officers using their discretion, they can weigh in on the totality of the circumstances in which they come in contact with the person. It goes back to saying some ID, any type of ID is better than having no identification.
The parish ID program started so that undocumented immigrants will feel more comfortable talking to the police. Right? If it is up to every single individual officer's personal discretion whether or not to accept parish IDs, don't you think there's some fear that you're actually putting like a false hope in some of these undocumented immigrants by giving them something that doesn't have to be actually accepted?
Them reporting the crime is just as important as anyone else in this community reporting the crime. Our job is to try to create the safest community in the country. And so it requires trust, and it requires building trust.
Do you think that Senate Bill 4 then has eroded some of the trust between law enforcement and undocumented community?
I'm not going to comment.
¿Tienes hambre, Andrea? Sí. I feel more comfortable in case a policeman need something with my photo that it was issued here. For the church to be doing this for us is a sense of hope that we have people who really care. And that's different.
All right. So, parish ID program. So that immigrants can have a form of identification that is accepted. But this form of identification, they're making sure to let people know that it's not official. Says the unofficial people. Right? The unofficial people are saying who's official and who's not official. No. Anybody have any comments on what they got from?
It's still colorable law. It's still 3/5 person identification. It's still it's a child property identification.
Wouldn't parish be under like the ward of the
Exactly, we look at it too.
wouldn't parish be under the ward of the
What did you say,
jurisdiction.
still colorable and what else?
3-5 person. Does it have no nationality? I was asking. People are
But also too, remember that in actuality, they're not the immigrant. So they actually do they are nationals. They're on Aboriginal indigenous level. That their identification that they're getting from so-called colorable government or make you a 3/5 person governments that are actually not official. These people should be just saying who it is that they are, no different than the Moors that we know who say they say Puerto Rican, not Puerto Rican. And they know that that's a cultural thing. That there was a shift that happened where people stopped calling themselves that and started calling themselves Puerto Rican. So that people were calling themselves Moors and then they start calling themselves African American and Black and whatever else. So this is what Joanne's talking about. That said, every nation suffered slavery. Not just black guys alone were slaves and we have a monopoly on being the best slaves ever. Our time in slavery was the longest, and other people were in slavery too. But all these other people were in slavery too, and they're not having the problems that we're having, then what's wrong with us? And then that comes back to what's your identity? Because nobody told all of us that we're not Negro black colored, that we're Moors. Right? We're not this, and we're that. But this right here is dealing with identification. And then if he's saying that everything is divine and national, everything's divine and national, then this also has a spiritual application. Not being that and being that. There's a spiritual connection in that as well. So the witchcraft is having these Moors think to themselves that they're immigrants. Like this is how they actually think for themselves. We are immigrants. So because we are immigrants, we need to go to the church so they can give us an ID that, you know, in case we get stopped, we don't get deported and all that type of stuff. You're in your own land. Deported? What do you mean deported somewhere?
It's kind of funny that they would think going to the church was solving the problem.
Right.
The church and the government one and the same.
And then church and state. And then you look at that on Aspen Law Dictionary. Now you got identity there? I know where.
Well, let's look at parish.
Oh, you got it there? Yeah, we can put it still parish. Still parish. And we're not talking about EPFD parish for anybody.
Yeah, this is good. In English, please they ask the law parish. Circuit of ground committed to the charge of one parson or vicar or other minister having pure souls therein. The precinct of a parish church and a particular charge of a secular priest. An ecclesiastical division of the town or district subject to the ministry of one pastor. So it's an English church jurisdiction. That's what it's in. They've created it for that. It also says it's a corporation.
Right.
A corporation established for the maintenance of public worship, which may be coterminous with the town or include only part of it. A precinct or parish is a corporation established solely for the purpose of maintaining public worship, and its powers are limited to that object. They may raise money for building and keeping and repair its meeting house, supporting its minister, but for no other purpose. A town is a civil and political corporation established for municipal purposes. They may both subsist together in the same territory and be composed of the same person. So corporation. That's right, for
Up and down,
every turn, that's what it is.
right? So they took their non-official immigrant status into English church corporation jurisdiction that's giving them identification, so that the state, which is the so-called police, aka immigration, whatever, right? They don't have direct access to these people now. Know where everybody is, where they are, when they're gonna be at the thing, right? Because remember, church is all public record info. So they can't hide anything. That's why they can find out these pastors or whatever and have them in their little church tribunal or whatever, and have them talking about $85 billion jets that they had and all that type of stuff, and then their church just stops. But there's 50 other guys that's doing the same thing. So what about all those guys? Nobody's not concerned with those ones until, you know, it's time to shuffle the deck again. Now they're doing, remember, they're colorable, but they're doing exactly what Morris Science Temple was set up to do. Right. Exactly. Take the immigrant, take the person who's dead status, Negro, black, color, or whatever, and put them on a different plateau. It's just that this one is taking them to the lower self plateau, and then the more science taking them to the higher plateau.
And they lose part of who they are. It's like what's this diminutio, like when they capitalize, you're losing part of your civil and your family rights when they capitalize parts of your name. You know, when it's all capitalized, you lost everything. Another way of how they corporatize it again,
Right.
in the name itself, right?
And then now when you look at the whole idea of these so-called immigrants, because remember, Negro, black, color, if they say that they're slaves from Africa, they're immigrant. Now, if we know people who are from quote-unquote Africa, who are from there, and then they come over here and they say, you know what? I don't think I want to be under that status. I want to be under something else. I don't know what yet, but the thing that's talking about parishes and oaths to the queen and all that kind of stuff, there's a problem there. Because I don't know who she is or anything like that. She really doesn't have any.
Well, that goes with identity too. Like we know who we are. They're saying who they are.
Right.
And it should be respected either way. If that's who we are, okay. If I'm saying, I'm the inheritor of this land, and it's proven, then you have to respect that too. I'm going to respect who you are too.
Right.
Identity, I got the
Yes.
Municipal division.
Yeah, there's some of municipal in there too.
So it's got to be assembly.
Yeah.
Right. And then also too that, municipal, again, a rolling rate. Which we're going to be with the church and the state. The church is always going to be the rolling rate. And the state is there to back the church.
Yeah, exactly, they work together. They say it's separate, but it's not.
But it's
They need each other, they're one and the same, they're one and the same.
Yeah.
The church has been corporate house.
President's taking an oath on the Bible. What do you mean, separate?
Exactly, the Bible's in the courts, they make the offer to you.
How is it separate?
Right?
Now you can deny the
The
offer.
court's supposed to be separate, but you're taking the Bible.
That's where you have people at, right? Yeah, well, go ahead.
I was gonna say.
Make sure you talk loud so
I was
that.
gonna look at it from a different perspective. Of ultimately, we know that the Bible, to us, is something connected with the church. But we know the Bible has other features to it as well. It's really an astrology book, right?
Right.
So really, he's really he's putting his allegiance to the real thing. Anyways, through the fraud.
Yeah, in the background.
Right, the church is only fraud to the effect that it's not giving the people what they really need, right? But it's still.
But they know what's needed, or they're presenting what it is that it really is. They're just not upfront.
We can affirm the Bible based on our knowledge of it.
They're affirming,
as
what I'm
opposed
trying to
to
say is
their
they're also
knowledge.
tying to the truth, right, which is that. It just gets lost because it's been used in a negative way.
Right.
And ultimately, the church was that negative dogma way of getting you to take the fake off rather than the real.
And do
Even though the church was the real.
Yeah.
Like the real church was the real. They had to get, this is what I've said to people before, they had to get ahead of you and make sure that when you start to look for the Spirit, that you found the dogma. That was the whole deal, right? We have to get ahead of these guys so when they start looking for that, any hole that you go into, you corrupt it. That was the deal. But the Bible isn't the wrong part to that, right? The Bible has been used for the wrong part to that, right? From that perspective. So that's why I say he's tying himself to all of that stuff that's codified in there, to the real deal, right? And then above that, he's got his other oaths. That
whatever else that
supersede that oath, and probably say that all oaths are bullshit that he takes after this oath, right?
You don't even have to use the Bible, you can bring any religious.
Yeah, any religious book.
That's what I'm saying, though. We've all been tainted.
Okay, so then that goes to identity. You're coming in as part of a particular organization. You're coming in and use your own book from your own faith.
Right.
So it's basically what St. David's.
Exactly.
Yeah, Constitution, right?
Exactly. That's what he said. Yeah.
Jews got their stuff. This is yours, right?
This is what you going with.
Exactly. But I was going to say also that that's the real law. It's the spirit law that's coming. It's not the physical law. It's what are you professing to be? What are you professing to be spiritually? That's what's really bringing you to it. Right?
Yeah. Again, the divine.
Always has to come first.
Yeah.
Divine always has to come first. Good one.
Sorry, identity, the law of evidence, sameness, fact that subject, person, or thing before court is the same as it is represented, claimed, or charged to be. Basically, you're saying who you are, and they have to accept what that is. Identity of design in sameness of appearance, or in other words, sameness of effect upon the eye, not the eye of an expert, but of an ordinary intelligent observer. So you shouldn't have to go through hoops to define who you are. The average person should be able to recognize, more. So a dark-skinned person, you see a dark-skinned person in the fast,
Automatically,
they should know that
identity.
that's identity, right?
As soon as you see the flag,
exactly.
you already know.
Exactly.
Right? It's not even supposed to be, just like when, as soon as you see dot right here, you already know. It's not, and you get, well, I want to know what, you already know what it is. You know what I mean? But with this being attached to identity, like the woman and I were talking about while we were coming up here, about the first place our people go is, well, I don't want to be Muslim and the religion, and I saw Allah in there, and I saw things, Muhammad and all that stuff. I don't think that's, what do you mean? What are you talking about? Dogma. What are you talking about dogma? We're dealing with divine. What is religious coming, right? Even with the identity, the law of evidence proves the fact as far as the identification. Because the identification of that individual should be from that individual. Like, it shouldn't be somebody who's not you identifying you.
Right. You make the call.
Right? So like, if a more would say, get the nationality card with the barcode. Because when you swipe the barcode, stuff's gonna come up to let them know whatever. Right? Whatever the message is that they're trying to relate to them after they swipe. But then, if the only thing that has barcodes are products and stuff like that out there. Like, nothing else has a barcode. Only thing that has a barcode is stuff people sell. How could it be qualified as identity? And if it is being qualified as identity, then in the law of evidence, you're saying you're a product if you have a barcode. Yes. Whether it's on the card, on the back of your neck, on your wrist, you just do like this or whatever, regardless, you're saying you're a product. As soon as you say that you're a product, even if you say L, B, whatever, but you put that in the product placement, then that's not a product. But it's only limited to that clown that thought they could do something like that and not be connected to being a product. Like you say, there's boys right now, they're still using nationality card like what you bourgeois had. No picture or nothing like that. How? Because they're divine morals. There are morals that need a card to be a moral. There are morals that doesn't matter what gets shown, it's going to be passed and accepted. Because they're here first. And then divine gives the national the momentum. Right? What else was there? Was there something else we were looking up?
I think that was
Partial identification.
observation. Yeah, I think law is written for the general. Office that example there says that. The conclusion we draw from what's written in law has to be observable by the average person. If it's not, then maybe it's not legitimate. The average person should be able to look at that statement and determine what that is. But that's too far.
Too far.
Yeah.
Plantain chips, boy. We just to put out there. Huh?
Anything else with that?
No, I think that was true. We also wanted to go to religious controversy. I sent you the thing, right? I sent you the religious controversy. In this age, there is still much religious controversy as to the right thing. Big and powerful ministers have come to the conclusion that something is wrong. Some say it is the 10 Commandments. Others say there is a lack of sincerity in the purpose of the churches. Still others think it is all worthless and not fit for the time it takes to attend them. However, or whatever their final decision might be, it is certain they will make a change, or rather try to make one. The fact of the matter is that they have always had only a reflection of the truth and not the real thing. They have only had a reflection of the truth and not the real thing. Now, with regard to the fact of the matter is that they have always had only a reflection of the truth and not the real thing. Now we're going to go to this this overview by these Moors about the Religious Corporation Act and the Moorish Science Temple of America, and the perspective of leaving out the fact that Noble Drew Ali was a constitutionalist. So Noble Drew Ali wasn't some religious leader, whatever. Right? There's no way that they're going to paint him with some type of pastor brush. That this was about that. This was about following some corporation act that some foreign European corporation is using to have jurisdiction over people's affairs that they have no business meddling in. There's no need for them to know what's going on, especially if they're diverse nationality to the individuals who have whatever it is that they're presenting. And the compromise is when you go to certain, we'll say, institutions of others, you'll see that they'll have their whatever representation as their national flag, and then they'll have some type of Canadian flag or U.S. flag or whatever side by side, so that they're not looked at like a threat. But they can only be looked at as a threat from the people who's letting them in. That they shouldn't even be going to them to have them give them some card or visa or whatever, so they're able to come over here into the country, which is really a corporation. It's not even a country that they're coming to. That's all.
Yeah, I just want to say that, but I think that from my perspective, we all sort of, well, at least I'm going to state that I sort of know that all of these so-called entities are connected corporately behind the scenes. I start to wonder what it is we can do about that. How do we, what are the steps that we need to do to counter that?
To counter what? Like,
well, what you're talking about, which is the fact that there's a sort of corporate blanket that's thrown on all of this that sort of has us enslaved.
That's only for those who want to be under the blanket.
No, but I'm saying that there's agreement by assumption as well, right? The fact that they put those two things up there sort of makes it seem like these two entities really agree with each other, but the very body that makes up those entities really doesn't, for the most part, right? Or at least by not actively sort of contradicting it, by acquiescence, they are agreeing to it, right?
Yeah, remember that agreement is only for the people who are not from here, that are doing business with that corpse pretending to be government.
Right.
Like, they're only trying to impress them. But on a world level, they're not going in the world with the U.S. banner and their stuff. They're just going with their national flag only. So when we look at even, you know, the old pictures and stuff like that, and you see the pictures with Drew Ali and the temple pictures, and you see the flags up, and you see the Moroccan flag, and you see the stars and stripes. There's no there. If as soon as you see somewhere that has the stars and stripes on the left and the Moroccan on the right, you know that they're dealing with corporate activity. Because when you look at the back of the dollar bill, What you have on the left is the obverse, or the head. And the eagle is the tail, as far as the U.S jurisdiction is concerned. So now when they're presenting it, they should be presenting it obverse, reverse, if they're showing the connection. And then when you go to all these other places, you go to a taekwondo or whatever, they're gonna have their flag, and then they'll have the quote-unquote Canadian flag on the right, because they're not putting that over their stuff. That's not gonna be subordinate to their whatever. If they go to court, they got interpreter. They're not speaking English to these people, even if they know how to speak English. They're still gonna say interpreter. And all that is them using their quote unquote religious whatever to get around and be able to do certain things. Put their own people in certain positions in this corporation and then have their people work for them. But they can do that because they're corporate people. They're not from here. They're foreigners. Being that we're from here, we should be the ones doing it for ourselves. Have our own heads of state, so we can handle our own affairs. And anybody else that we deal with is based on us contracting. Because we're not presenting ourselves to you as how everybody else. You're gonna have to make a whole different new way of dealing with individuals to deal with us. Because once we look at beyond what is written, so they say Religious Corporation Act, and Noble Drawley said our authority, and when you look at the back and it says that, you know, this individual is made a sheik and whatever like that. When you play that out from late 1920s to today, those people who got given the mantle didn't do nothing with this. So why even bring them up? Why just go back to before them, where stuff started going downhill or whatever? Go to before that and implement that stuff. And when you go before that, you know that you're going into the civic constitutional ideal. The divine aspect, not the religious. Remember, it was because of so-called people with this dogmatic mentality. It was because of that why Noble Drawley even went to the Religious Corporation Act and changed the name from Moorish Holy Temple of Science to Moorish Science Temple. It was because of so many niggers out there that they're not going to get the divine side. They're not going to get what the divine part is. They're so stuck in the slime of life, they're not even close to finding their way out of anything that they're going through. So he made sure that he left a place for even the slowest people to get this. And the best way to do that is say it's religious. Because Negroes love a religion. Right?
And that also been looked at as a counter move to the fact that this was all brought into a religious venue as well, right?
No, but remember, Constitution is from the 1800s and it talked about religion and that.
No, but I'm saying he's attaching, he's putting us, his acts will put us, in my mind, with a fighting stance within the corporate so-called religiosity that was created with what the Roman Catholic Church was doing.
Right, but that's what I'm saying, that Roman Catholic Church was doing that in 1913.
But they had jacked that from us.
Well, it's not, I wouldn't say jacked it in the sense of we just didn't get down with the prophet. We got down with the Pope.
Right. Right.
We got down with the Jesus. We got down with the Muhammad. We didn't get down with.
They came into our movement and murdered our prophet at the time, which and there was a lot of
which caused the whole right.
But I'm saying, in respect that he created that, he created that corpse to put us on equal with the corpse that was created, that Roman Catholics created as well. Right. Gave us that same foothold.
Yeah.
Within that corporate game.
Yeah.
That's what that was for in my mind.
So cowboys got left behind. There's something there.
He made sure that you're going to send a religious corporation, whatever, so are we.
Yeah.
We're the original religious corporation that did that. So he was really tying us even before that.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That it's prior to that even. Right.
Yeah.
Prior to them having that position. Right.
To their counter, right?
Like, because if you're saying that it's counter, it's because they move first. They didn't move first though.
I know.
Yeah, so it's not a counter. It's not a counter to them.
Oh yeah.
It's just what it is that we were supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
That those people were already doing, or looking at it like, hey, you know, we should actually do that. Get their profit out the way. All these people are going to be scattered. We're looking for something to be part of anyways. And make sure that we have the safety net for them. Because really and truly, they're still Negroes.
Well, that's the same thing they're doing now in the corporate world. Everything that we buy is our stuff.
Right.
They take, whether it's fashion that comes out of the hood or whatever, they take it and then
sell it back. The fact of the matter is that they have always had only a reflection of the truth and not the real thing. Like one who holds up the sun to a mirror and casts a few of its diverted rays in a different direction, so have they done with the truth that is supposed to have come from the east. There are but few people who know what the truth is about man, and that few know that it is foolish to try to impart it to the ignorant. Although the ignorant has finished college, he is a fool right on, being trained to jump through a hoop. The longer he stays in the school, the better he can jump and the more he defends his jumping. From the east comes all light. But though the sun is hanging at high noon, the blind cannot see. The same as the Islamic creed from the east, which was brought to the Asiatics of America by the Prophet Noble Ali, and offered to those who were sick at heart, tried for many years, yet they are blind and cannot see the light. Nor is the Prophet trying to put new wine in old skins, for he knows that it will burst them. Still, he has the only remedy for the nations. The remedy brought by Jesus, Muhammad, Confucius, and all the other prophets, which remedy is truth. The nations do not want the truth. It is too stern. But until they accept it and find out where it is, there will continue to be religious controversy. So the connection again of Noble Ali saying, this is religious, was to get everybody to be able to say they can be part and tie themselves back to the families of nations. Because just like what Omar said, he had foresight to see that things were going corporate. He knew what was about to happen. They said that even if you're corporate, there's this jurisdiction that you could come to and it could be your safe haven. But the individual has to be the one that is realizing that that's what it is. There's a lot more, right? You know, they always want to tie to the Religious Corporation Act. in order to make it a connection to Noble Drew Ali. And then again, to be able to push their position that this is religion. So that the people would not see any issue in them saying, you know, we just wrote a hymn to Noble Drew Ali, and then we're all going to sing the hymn or whatever like that in practice so we could sing this hymn to the Prophet. Right? These Moors. Please.
Very late.
It's all right. Better late than never.
Exactly.
On November 26, 1926, the Moorish Temple of Science was incorporated in the state of Illinois in compliance with an act concerning corporations, enacted April 18, 1872. This was confirmed by Illinois Secretary of State Lewis Emerson. Secretary of State Lewis Emerson. Now, when we go to some of the minutes, this is the type of individuals that Noble Drew Ali was around when he was known as being prophet and going around and doing whatever works that he was doing. So this is from the minutes of the convention. Following the registrations at headquarters Monday, reports were read from the two grand governors, T. Crombie Bay, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and Lomax Bay of Detroit, Michigan. Tuesday evening, the welcome address was delivered by Alderman Louis B. Anderson. Other speakers were Oscar DePriest, 3rd Ward Committeeman, Dr. Roman of Meharry Medical College, Nashville, Tennessee, Attorney George Blackwell, and Aaron Payne. Richard Ross was Master of Ceremonies, Claude B. Green, Manager, Editor of the Moorish Guide, is Chairman of the Arrangement Committee, which has worked hard to get everything in splendid order for the reception of the visitors. Wednesday, a parade was held. Now, when we go into this idea of Noble Drew Ali having the Moorish Temple of Science and then changing the name so that it has a religious application, why he did it and the reasons and all that stuff is all laid out in his literature that he presented to the Moors so that they can have a true perspective of what he brought. So this was no order of secrecy. This was not something that, you hear people talking about, there's Moorish science temples, and then they're telling you that you can't wear your fez unless you're in the temple. And if you're outside the temple, you don't wear your fez. Right? Taking the customs, giving them religious undertones, and then controlling the people through the customs. Instead of having the people be free people to exercise their right as Moors to, like we're talking about, self-identification. And that putting on a fez or a turban is identifying yourself. It's separating you from anybody else who has any type of head around. So the writing Moorish leaders' historical message to America. And again, it's dealing with the origin. It's dealing with why things were done. And it was made public to the Moors so that there's no religious controversy. There's not supposed to be religious controversy. The only reason there's religious controversy is people got off the vine and got religious. And then when they got religious, they didn't break down to people really what religion was, and really what dogma was, and really what brainwash was, and really what the things that people should stay away from. They just stuck in this position of, well, Noah's Ali said there's a religious corporation, so we're religious, and then that's it. That in 2018, you're going to go to a Moorish Science Temple, and they're going to have the band, and they're going to be singing hymns. These more. They're going to be singing hymns. And they're going to be singing. Replace Jesus and put Noble Ali's name there. And that's what it's about. And then you have other ones that's telling you that, oh yeah, it's about this membership and we need members and bring people in and let people in and, $50 a month, and then you just come in and there's nothing going on. There's no type of activity that the people could say, oh yeah, well, as Moors, whatever. All they know is go to the temple, sit there, sing, whatever, yeah. Oh, no Jolly Day, oh yeah, there's something, whatever, they recognize that. Other than that, everybody's chilling. And then the people outside that are looking at it as, oh, that's just some religious whatever. All they do is go to the temple and sit there and sing or whatever like that. We're hearing them through the walls or whatever, singing. All you want to do is go march up and down, and when the parade happens, they go to the parade, and other than that, nothing's happening. They're not applying this in any aspect of their life. They're not taking this and giving it to other people so that those people could be saved with what Noble Jolly brought to them. And a lot of it, majority of it, is because of the leadership that haven't ultimately laid everything down. They kept things back. Think about that Moorish Divine and National Movement had manufacturing companies. Now you're talking about there's a convention, Moorish convention. Moors can't even get in to go to the convention. That's their own stuff. They can't even get into their own stuff. How much people were really behind this? And how did the dispersal happen so fast with all these people that were part of this? Obviously, people didn't do their job. Because if he brought all those people, and then there were how much ever temples, and all those temples had members, then everybody out here should be Moors. There's really debating about are we Moors and all that stuff, and people say, oh, we're indigenous and we're Cherokee and all that stuff, putting us backwards. All so much work that's been done to get us out of all these dead statuses. We have people still telling us about dead statuses today. That's really our identity. But everything was laid down by this man. Moorish leaders' historical message to America. In connection with the aims of objects, rules, and regulations of the Moorish Science Temple of America, I deem it proper to submit to you a brief statement on our organization covering its inception, rise, and progress of the Mohammedan religion, which I hope will be satisfactory to you and be the means of causing you at all times to adhere to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice in your relations with mankind in general. Like, that's a statement. I hope this will be satisfactory to you and be the means of causing you at all times to adhere to the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. At all times adhere to those. There's no reason to not be in that. To have that be your focal point in whatever it is that you're doing.
And comprehension of all of that too. But sometimes love, truth, peace, freedom, justice is according to the perspective of that it is.
Right.
And agencies might have different perspectives. On your right.
Using those words from connotative perspectives or colorable perspectives, not really looking at how deep it is to say love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Like the metaphysical or the divine behind all those. I further most anxiously hope this brief statement will help you to more clearly see the duty and wisdom of at all times upholding those fundamental principles which are desired for your salvation of our posterity, such as obedience to law, respect and loyalty to government, tolerance, and unity. Obedience to law. Obedience to law has nothing to do with ordinances and statutes and acts and all that. So the Noble Jawali is letting us know that our fundamental principles that we choose to follow have tail end things on them. That once you're saying love is the first principle and you're learning to love instead of hate, there's stuff that's coming behind that you don't even know that's coming behind that just because you did that. And then when you do with truth, there's a tail end of whatever's going to come just because you were on truth. That you would be able to exist without having to exert too much energy to manipulate the ethers. They would be manipulated for you. This is even what with Matrix and Neo seeing the code and all that stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's him being in tune with himself. He's in tune with himself, so he's in tune with the universe. Simple. Dodge bullets, all that stuff, because you're in tune with the universe. You're in tune with the universe, you know how to dodge bullets. You'd be able to hear a plant tell you why you should take it. You know? Loyalty to government, right? Government is governmental. Government is not out here, these people say, and Parliament Hill and the Vatican and whatever. That's not government. Government is self. Government is family. Government is not what we thought government was. When people say government, just like when they say love, and then you think, oh yeah, I love you, and then it's like, yeah, I do, yeah. And then you end up getting played or whatever, because they didn't really love you, really. You thought your interpretation of what love was, and theirs was two different things. Like the loyalty to government is the loyalty to family. The loyalty to government is you can go into the Quran and read the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nations. That's loyalty to government. Right? How loyal are you to the family? How loyal are you to your nation? Are you really gonna listen to the guy who tells you only wear your fez to the temple, and when you go outside, you don't wear a fez? That's the guy. The individual who's telling you that, oh yeah, no Ali didn't teach us a law or anything like that. He just taught us pray to him and all that, and that's it. All he taught us was pray to him. Well, he didn't teach us to be healthy or whatever like that. There is a lot that Noble Drew Ali taught that didn't get to manifest. Think about all the stuff that manifested. Okay, now there's stuff that didn't get to manifest. And then these things manifesting were for now. For all the prophecies that he said about them. In the year 2000, the Moors are going to come into their own. What does he know about 2000? And then in 2000, that really happened when you go back and you check. I'll tell you, by 2008, Moors had this thing locked up. There was no Moors getting kidnapped and stuff like that. That stuff wasn't going down. Wasn't happening. That was only happening to Moors who weren't doing stuff properly. If Moors were honoring their foremothers and forefathers like they were supposed to, and taking the lessons of Noble Drew Ali, taking the lessons of CMB and all these other people who came with the remedy to save our people. All these individuals that are around today that claim that they are for the Moorish movement and whatever, all of them come from one of those strains of people after Noble Drew Ali left. There's ones that went the passive route, there's ones that went the religious route, there's one that turned into fez and all that stuff, went get black, whatever. There's some people that said, okay, well, we're going to keep the Islamic thing, but we're going to take out the Moor thing, and then we're going to say that we call ourselves some other nation. But all of them have the same lesson. All of them have the same foundation. Marcus Garvey and Noble Drew Ali. And the one you hear about mostly is Marcus Garvey. And then you're not even hearing about Drew Ali. But you hear about Marcus Garvey. And they got tapes of him and all that stuff. They got tapes of Elijah Muhammad and all that. They don't got no tapes of Noble Drew Ali. Yeah. Zero? Somebody had to have some tapes. If they got video footage of Black Wall Street in Oklahoma, that's not even nowhere around here. They got that. They have to have some stuff of Noble Drew in Chicago, something from him in Detroit, something from him in Cleveland, something of him in. There are temples everywhere. There has to be something. If there's nothing, then there's definitely a conscious effort to keep what he presented away from people. And so people are not able to make these connections. Right? And then never make the connection. Because they're gonna hear Moors or they think religious. They see a fez or they think they're religion. You know, they see a group of Moors or there's some congregation of some whatever.
They're always trying to diminish
always
to their level, right?
Always. Because that's the only way that you can keep the people not active. The best way to keep them active, make them be passive. Right? But them doing it themselves. Not somebody doing it to them. Them doing it themselves. This is nothing to stop saying that you're black. And then that'll change the frequency. Automatically, that's change the frequency. Then you stop saying you're African, colored, like that. Then the energy around you change some more. Now, that's only going to last so long, but you can't go on claiming that you're nothing after you say you're not those stuff. So there has to be something that, you know what I mean? You have to go like that and hook something before you talk about, right? Have to.
know, as you were saying, is they get people to do things for them. There was a recent case where a understanding that went to Supreme Court over status, not sorry, status, the fact that he wasn't Canadian or didn't have some land status here, he was being discriminated against for jobs. So this case came out where now you can't discriminate against this person because he doesn't have some Canadian status. So it's like another layer they dropped in there again by giving permission where he didn't need permission before, right? That's what they've done. Because now they've opened up Canada.
Right.
That's the identity thing, you know, who you're saying who you are.
Right.
Just going further into their identity.
Yeah.
Rather than being, you know,
being yourself.
Right? Yeah.
Rather than being yourself. And again, you know, look at it even as straying away from that, the whole indigenous idea, that they're not even embracing that.
Yeah.
Like that's even an aspect. Even Claude Anderson, blacker than anybody. He's a black talker guy. Tells me, you know what, it'll be kind of wise for black guys really want to get something, do what the natives did. I thought you guys from Africa or whatever. Why would you do what the natives did if you're not from here and that has no connection to you? Obviously, he's telling you that there's connection to you. And he's their number one, he's one of their number one elders right now, Claude Anderson. Dr. Claude Anderson. Black guys know him. Like they know him. And he's telling them, yeah, go to that, check out that indigenous stuff that the indigenous people are doing. You know what I mean? And see if we could get something done. Loyalty to government, tolerance, right? Again, you know, being able to be humble. Knowing that, yeah, we have this supreme knowledge, but it really doesn't mean nothing because we don't know anything. So to be easy with even those who don't know. Because, you know, forgive them for they know not what they do. Like they don't know what the hell they're doing. They're NBC. They don't have anything between their ears. They're just clouds. And we're the ones with the light. That's going to shine light in the clouds or whatever like that. Make them see stuff that they even consider that's in their own head. So that hopefully that'll get them, you know, once the wheels start turning, then the cobwebs start get out and the stuff starts moving a little bit more fluid or whatever. All right. You know what I mean? You spray a little WD-40 on there, you get it going, and once it gets going, then things will start manifesting. You know what I mean? It's like we're saying with him going through these motions of, you know, changing the name of something and putting different perspectives in the minds of the people. It's so that everybody could get something on every level. Like he covered it from top to bottom. Nobody left stranded. If you're a religious guy, all right, come in here, sing hymns or whatever like that, at least you know you're more. If you're civic minded, all right, come over here, we're gonna go to the convention, we're gonna meet with the mayor, we're gonna meet with the whoever else that there is for us to meet with. You know what I mean? They're gonna roll out the red carpet for us or whatever, because we're the Moors, and then that's just what it is. You know, those are on the divine side, those ones in the background, those ones are the oracles, those are the ones that have, you know, you have the temple or whatever like that, and then they have their own room in the building that is, you know, specifically located so that the moon comes through the window at a certain time when we're doing the rituals or whatever like that, so that, you know, we can have this temple for 500 years. Because
yeah,
the fullness of it, right? There's a divine one, there's a national one, then there's everybody else who's on the fence. That'll be the religious people, that'll be the ones who don't know, the ones who kind of sort of want to be Moors, but you know, they love Jesus, so they don't want to say they're Muslim, but the Quran is talking about Jesus throughout the whole thing, and it's like, you know what? There must be confusion going on because you're not listening to what the prophet laid down. Man put it down real plain and simple so that nobody has any issues. You know what I mean? Just like with the sister that brought up at the Jamal's lecture. The sister that brought up about the Orishas, that made me remember about Mother Juliana, right? And that the witches need to start to be the witches. That's what your stuff is, then that's what you're supposed to do for the Moorish movement. Do that. No, that's not Moorish, and you can't do those stuff. And what do you mean candles and crystals and all that stuff? No, Joali didn't bring that and all that. Don't listen to them people. You do them crystals, you do all those candle stuff, you do all the organ, whatever it is, do it all. Essential oils, whatever. Any and everything. So it's all part of what it is that, you know, we strayed away from. And as soon as we start coming back to it, we start seeing the stuff getting back in motion. Things start working how they're supposed to work. We organized as the Moorish Temple of Science in the year 1925. Right? So Moorish Temple of Science, 1925. And were legally incorporated as a civic organization under the laws of the state of Illinois, November 29th, 1926. Right? So in 25, organized as a Moorish Temple of Science. By 26, incorporated as a civic organization. You have you can look up civic in there. Yeah, you can check the law dictionary. You can check that other blue one right there too. Yeah, the encyclopedia and yeah, check that one too. Right, so legally incorporated as a civic organization in 1926. Yeah, go ahead, Mark.
Civic as an adjective, one over relating to citizenship or a particular citizen, civic responsibility or two, over relating to a city, civic center, purposes. Yeah, over relating to a citizenship or a particular citizen.
Right, so ultimately dealing with citizenship. Right, dealing with the functioning or the running of society. 126. Right now, if we look at what it is that the Moorish Holy Temple of Science, the Moorish Temple of Science was doing before 1926 was already civic. Right? They were already doing humanitarian work. They were already exercising as Moors. So the civic thing wasn't needed like that. Because if it's Aboriginal and Indigenous, then there's no need for them to even be in the affairs. Because they have nothing to do with it. This is not, it's not their jurisdiction. Right? Which again was why they can have a treasury and stuff like that and you know what I mean, be able to exercise. Don't forget, they have manufacturing companies and stuff. That stuff wasn't in 1926. That was before that. They had these things. They have Moorish community centers and stuff like that. All those things are pre people even getting this documentation called Moorish Leaders Historical Message to America, where Noble Jwali is breaking this down. But we know that they had buildings with signs on them and all that, right? Prior to 26. You had civic there too?
Yeah, it's in the encyclopedia, but there isn't one for civics. There's civic civilian rights act of 3 different years, civil rights cases, Civil War American.
So there's no civic.
No civics.
All right. And you got
civic there pretty much is the same as the first one, pertaining to a citizen or citizen or citizenship. Yeah, similar to the first.
Right.
Seat. Or pertaining to a citizen, pertaining to a seat.
No, citizenship.
pertaining to citizenship.
Citizenship is a seat.
It's a seat.
That's not what I'm saying, but it could be you guys.
The name Moorish Temple of Science changed to Moorish Science Temple of America in 1928 in accordance with the legal requirements of the Secretary of State of Illinois. So the civic was incorporated under the laws of the state of Illinois, and the Temple of Science was in accord with the legal requirements of the Secretary of State. Remember, Secretary of State, that's a de facto jurisdiction. Right? They're not really the secretary. The Moorish Science Temple Grand Secretary is really the secretary. Right? The object of our organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens. We just read that the civic had to do with citizenship. So if the object of the organization is to help in the great program of uplifting fallen humanity and teach those things necessary to make our members better citizens, then these requirements, these legal requirements of the Secretary of State of Illinois that got the Moorish Temple of Science changed to the Moorish Science Temple of America was still carry on civic duties after. It wasn't supposed to still be religious or be looked at as religious only. As soon as they kept this idea that this is religious only because of some religious corporation act or whatever, they dumbed down what it really was supposed to be about. They slowed down the activity, which we know that that's purpose guided by the core intelligence program that was set up in order to stop any so-called Black liberation, emancipation movement or whatever. Any one of them, doesn't matter. The whole point was to make sure of that fact, that these people don't look at themselves as members becoming better citizens. They look at themselves just as members of this religious whatever, so we're just going to sit here and wait for the grand sheik to tell us what to do. But then the Quran is telling you that the people are supposed to be telling the grand sheik what to do. But then if they play this like church, if they got their Quran and then they just open it on chapter whatever, and then they never read that, just like the Bible at whoever else's house or whatever like that, just sitting there on the one page open past 20 years. They go to church every day, every weekend they go to church or whatever. But this one Bible is open to one page. Dust on it. Dust on it, you can't look, you can't see words on it. But they love their Jesus or whatever. That's hypocrisy. That's ancestor abandonment. Because like you're saying, even in that, watered down version of ancient texts, you're gonna get some keys out of it. Ain't nobody reading that and say they never got keys out. The only way that that's the case is if they're looking at it from some dogma or religious perspective. But you look at that metaphysical and astrological, you're going to get something out of it. Right? So now again, remember, we're talking about Moorish Science Temple now because the name changed. Right? So once he goes through, we organize as Moorish Holy Temple of Science in 25, legally incorporated as civic organization 26, name Moorish Temple of Science changed to Moorish Science Temple of America 28. Everything from now is under the banner of Moorish Science Temple of America. So everything under the banner of Moorish Science Temple of America is uplifting fallen humanity, which these people never did, 100 years or whatever. Teaching those things necessary to make our members better citizens. They were supposed to do that as Moorish Science Temple of America, which they never did, which is why these people aren't acting like better citizens right now. They're acting like wards of other people. And they can't even, like we use all the time, gays just came yesterday, they got rights before black people. And Negroes and colored Africans or whatever. They just came yesterday. They got a flag, they can shut the street down, have a parade. Black guys only do that in Carabana. And that's not even their stuff. That got bought from them.
The same thing you're seeing the people focus on the grass sheet, you know, it's the same way how the people supposed to tell the government and the so-called factor government telling the people and put forth schedules and these so-called holidays, you know, setting them, putting them, keeping them in check.
Yeah.
I was just saying, expound on that. I think we did have our stuff. Our band started on the streets on Abbey Road. We used to shut that stuff down 20, 30 years ago. What happened was people sold out, right? So we had that parade. We had the ability to shut the street down. That's what we did.
Yeah, but remember, like even in doing that, it was done under the colorable jurisdiction.
Yeah.
So it was more.
I'm saying where it was then, it was more free. I know you have to sort of get the permits from the street and stuff. But now they're basically warehousing us now, right?
Not only that, but look what we're saying here about not to not only that, but even the people's mindset has really changed really much here about originally started. For gun things, for arms things that happen, things like that happened in the times past. That's not just like it's like a sacrament place like that. It's like a ritual kind of thing. So for that to happen here, that's the mentality of people like now it's obvious.
That's more, to me, that's more of a reflection of society. That's them bringing their stuff to the parade. The parade, remember, it's like the administration's pure. It's what you bring to it. So that, the idea of the parade, like, I remember I was watching it this year, the word on the news. It looked beautiful. The colors, all the work that they put into it. It's all that stuff going around on the side that really has been sort of commercialized and then corrupted, right?
How many of these, parades out there now, like these showcases of collaborating on culture? How many of them do we actually own? So like, when I all of that donors from big corporate institutions, right? A lot of them have, I guess, thought out or sold out at the game.
What I sense happens is there's always has to be some structure. Someone always has to answer to something. So then the end of that all, what happens is the corporate nature comes behind it because you're dealing with corporate, and you're dealing with any space out here, you know, right? So you go on a freelance, but you get some permit. You've got to have a corporation talking to a corporation. Once that happens, someone takes control of it, and it's copyright nature, and then those people usually get bought out and sold out. I had an ex-Moor who, an awakened Moor, or a Nation of Islam Moor, he was trying to get on the board of directors for the Caravan thing because he knew it was a cash cow. Because he knew that the old folks who were running it since 40 years ago, they were just reaping in the benefits of it. Every year they're just selling it out. So it's like the chiefs do with their people. Right? They're signing away on shit that people don't have any clue of what's being signed away on. So they're doing from the perspective that they somehow own it. They don't own anything. They were sort of maybe elected in the beginning, and they just held on to it. right? And then they just bought, and then it's just become the whore for the banks. Scotia Bank Caravana, Royal Bank Caravana, right? And all those millions going to the hotels. And all
Right.
the food millions
And the
millions
foundational people who set this thing up get nothing.
Right.
Right.
Car rentals,
Yeah.
the club rentals, all of that, the billion, I'm sure the billion,
I mean, it's a lot, bro. It's a lot. It's a lot.
million.
Yeah, it's a
And
lot.
they're talking about that being, think about this being the biggest parade in North America.
Yeah.
That's what they're saying?
Yeah.
Saying this is the biggest parade in North America.
It's been that for years. Like it's been that.
Years. The biggest parade, so you think about it, when it's all Toronto being this, whatever, it's the biggest parade in North America.
And then look up
The only one bigger is the one in Brazil, right? And if you ever hear about that,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
the one in Trinidad is pretty severe too.
think about that. Think about that with look up Caravana and Scotia Bank and you know, this idea of the corporate people realizing that, you know, this is a big fish order. We need to get in on this because, you know, we could, you know, and then the people who are in the debt status, who they've been doing this thing, volunteer work for the past 40, 50 years or whatever like that, trying to squeeze them out.
Right.
Right? Trying to squeeze them out. Sorry. That's the important call. when you get the music.
Just sing that one. Get her up.
That'll be the joint. That'll be the. So from there on, we're looking at Moor Science Temple of America. So it goes on to say, a national organization with a Rotarian complexion. Or if you look up Rotarian, you write Rotarian. Rotarian. R-O-T-A-R-I-A-N. So the Moor Science Temple of America is not merely a religious corporation, but it's also a national organization. So if it's a national organization, then it definitely has to be making these people better citizens. It definitely has to do with changing the frequency of our people. Huh? No, I think those wheels are good. Yes, rolling good. If you had only rims on that, I'd be rolling.
That's a problem here, right?
A national organization with a Rotarian complexion. You got it?
Yeah, I don't see it. The closest thing I have is rotation.
What about Rotary?
Rota of presentations.
R-O-T-A-R-I-Y. No. What about the encyclopedia?
Yeah, there's
Don't play with that.
Rotation. Noun. A member of the Rotary Movement of International Clubs. See Rotary International. Rotary International.
International. More? International?
International?
These are the Rotary. Is that the black flag you got there?
Yeah.
Well, it might not be in there as a legal.
Yeah. Go again with Rotary.
Yeah, it doesn't have Rotary International. It says C.
No, not you. My bad. I was showing that.
What did it say just for Rotary? You said something for Rotary.
Yeah, what was it for Rotary?
For Rotary, it says adjective. Rotating, turning on an axis, working by rotation. 2. A rotary machine, example, a rotary press. A circle, a traffic circle.
Right, so this national organization with a Rotarian complexion is not only, okay, let's continue on. As it relates to branch temples, became obvious with the increasing number of inquiries from men and women in different sections of the country concerning the purpose of the organization. There are branch temples in 15 different states at this time. The national organization had a Rotarian complexion. So when they put it in there with regard to rotating, look at it like we were talking about with Black Wall Street and the finance going around the community before it goes out. The lessons going around the community. Brother Omar's inspiration of setting up the classes in a Rotary form instead of back to back, everybody back to back like this is church, right? And have people's interaction with each other opposed to forcing the energy. You know, at times somebody in the back talking, everybody has to turn around and listen to that guy right there, and then turn them back around. But it's a normal thing to be uncomfortable. Like it's a training that it's all right, that we'll all sit facing this way and be in an inconvenience, opposed to being like this. But then when you go to all the, you know, high level meeting or whatever, it is a round table. They're on. They don't do that back to people's stuff when they're doing their little rituals or whatever, or their meetings of whatever it is they're doing for them to be whoever they are, or exercise whatever it is that they're exercising. So all these things, and then again going back to the thing of, you know, the Rotarian complexion, that he told the Moors that some of his best Moors are in the church, and then church comes from circle, which again brings back that Rotary thing that even if you're talking religious, you're talking metaphysical. You're not talking religious and talking on some low level. Peace family, right? You got some more?
Just to say that if any of you know, they have like the Rotary Club here.
Yeah.
Those vehicles that have like the symbol of it is the Coptic cross and the universal cross.
Right.
It's the X, and then it's the, which is the, I can't remember what they call that cross. It's the eight position cross. But they tend to go around to neighborhoods giving out food and helping people. So to me, the utilitarian part is that, that giving part. That's what the Rotary Club does. They go out and help people. So I think that's where it comes from, the Rotarian complexion. It's about helping people.
And then again, him beating this dead horse again about uplifting fallen humanity, which is the same thing as that Rotarian perspective, that we have an obligation to less fortunate people to assist them in, you know what I mean, how we do, because we have a particular mindset that many people aren't really, you know, they're not too familiar with, which is why they're not functioning at their full capacity, because their mindset is off into some other stuff that they shouldn't even be in. Learn more.
I'm just consider real issues and make statements that the administrative handbook. Is that the administrative handbook?
No.
We also mentioned the administrative handbook about the fact that a nation cannot reach its highest potential. A beggar nation cannot reach its highest potential. And I think we know that the main issue with all of us is our financial situation. Some of so in the fiat, it could be also so in the spirit. We're really not a wealthy nation right now. Though we can say that we are wealthy, maybe spiritually, but we're not wealthy, so we're never going to be able to attain those things. Until we can have time to be able to pursue the things we need to pursue, we're never going to be able to reach that highest level. So if we're always working for the man, so-called, or the European, that's where this whole problem has been. So their attack on us is to make sure that we're giving our energy to them.
Yep.
It's really, and that's what we're missing, and that's why he keeps telling you it's really about turning inwards, right? So we have to, that's really where this is. So that was the national attack on things. The spiritual was the fact that you never find the spiritual connection. And the national part is that they've got you dealing with their fiat and all their stuff right now, right? So we need to, that's where I see it's that next level stuff. We need to see how, if I need my vehicle to be worked out, I talk to Laura. If I need whatever it is you do, I talk to you. When you need whatever it is I do, I talk to me. Once that happens, that's what all the other communities do. Right now, we're still giving all our energy away to those people. So that's the side battle he was talking about. We're helping people out. And really, it's almost like the poor helping the poor out.
Yeah.
That's really what's going on here, right? It's the beggar going to help the other beggar out.
Yeah.
Right? But we need to get, that's the beginning of it. So we're talking our boys out of the mud, but then we need the guy with the plane and the helicopter attachment to pull us all out of here. Right? That was the next part to it. I think those are the complementary parts that he's talking about. The first part is helping people on the street. The next part is helping people at the boardroom. Right? That's what I see.
Right. Since the work of the Moorish Science Temple of America was largely religious, the organization has been legally changed to a religious corporation, and an affidavit to this effect has been properly filed in the Cook County Recorder's Office in Illinois. Now, this opens up a whole different perspective now, because everything before was under the Secretary of State of Illinois and then the state of Illinois. So when he said religious corporation, but instead of going through the state of Illinois or the Secretary of State, we're going to go to the county recorder's office.
That also makes mention of file.
Right. That's public notice. And then that's where the aspect of when you join the Moorish Science Temple of America, 2020s, right? You're going in, you're going to proclaim your nationality, you're going to get your paperwork signed by a grand chief, grand governor, whoever like that, and then you're going down to the Cook County Recorder's Office, and then you're filing your stuff under that. And then when the temple stopped doing that, then that's when individuals started going down and filing it themselves in the miscellaneous file. And then when they started blocking that, saying, well, no, you guys can't come down here and file stuff. This county has actually been bought out by the city. Then that turned into, oh, okay, you just prepare your documents yourself, find your own witnesses or whatever like that, and put them on notice. Because that's the only thing left that you can do. Because they're blocking all the other avenues. They're blocking you from, and again, like we said in the beginning, these people said, we're Catholic Church or whatever, we're going to give these people IDs. Like they can actually do that.
But they're Muslims, but they want to go to them. Well, they don't know that.
You know, like they can do that.
What?
They can say as the Catholic Church, being that they're ecclesiastical, which means that they're a corporate government in some sense of the word. They can issue IDs and stuff like that. Now, it's not official ID because they're not the sovereigns here. They're foreigners.
Goes back to that parish definition.
Right? And then that goes back to that they're also connected to the state, which means that the state's foreign and they can't be issuing IDs and passports and visas and stuff either.
Yeah, but they can't.
But they can't under the colorable jurisdiction.
No, as well
they can and they do. And the force of arms.
They are the colonized. But as well as from the perspective of the Admiralty law and putting themselves in a different jurisdiction, they can create those jurisdictions on paper. And as long as you agree to, right, through ecclesiastical law, you're going to say, I'm going to agree to this. If you agree to it, that's making it that law. It's not law. Right? It's law that they created that you agree to. That's still on top of the land, right? And that's what I say.
You gotta remember that's their part of their principles. We have about 5 principles there.
Right. Right.
The colonization, the immigration, the annexation, the slavery.
Yeah.
There are 5 principles. Use them in any way.
They have their stuff they're gonna do.
reality, because
Yeah.
the church can be bad, actually, okay, they can't stop that. Church says.
Yeah.
Church do
Right. Right. So look at even Noble Drew Ali's activity as him setting the standard of how Moors should have did whatever it is that they were gonna do. If they're gonna go to school, you go down, put your affidavit together, file it out in the county. You're gonna start a business, you're gonna file it at the county. You're gonna whatever, you're gonna go file it at the county. Put it on the public record that this is what it is that you're doing, and then you start exercising what it is that you're claiming. And because it's on the county record and the county recorder is a constitutional position, then no corporate jurisdiction has jurisdiction in those affairs. Hence, they can't tell anybody anything about they can't do this, they can't do that. Because everything was set up for us to be able to do these things. And again, if they're talking about 15 branch temples, right? Now that's the branch temples. There was the temple, there was the grand major temple, and then there's 15 branch temples, right? But all the branch temples had subordinate temples under them, right? So if out of these 15 branch temples, every one of those has 2 temples under them. And all of them are doing this activity of going down to the road, file the thing in the record. And then you think these people have a chance of stopping what it is that we're doing? When all these businesses are not being registered through the Secretary of State of Illinois or Secretary of State of whatever jurisdiction, they were actually being filed in the county. They weren't being filed under some laws of some incorporated state of whatever jurisdiction. These laws are going down to the county recorder and recording what it is that they're doing, what it is that they're creating, what it is that they're founding. And then using that public record filing as proof of their activity.
And those people operating at the county offices had an aspect of respect for the law.
Yeah.
And these people, a lot of these people want to operate daily businesses. They don't even know about it. Talk about they will talk to their accountant.
Yeah. Yeah.
For the notice.
Right.
Definition of notice?
Yeah, you got there?
Yeah, notice, information, result of observation, whether by the senses or the mind. Knowledge of the existence of a fact or state of affairs, the means of knowledge. Knowledge of facts which would naturally lead an honest and prudent person to make inquiry constitutes notice.
Actually, go again from the top, because the notice is pretty heavy.
Okay. Notice, information, the result of observation, whether by the senses or the mind. Knowledge of the existence of a fact or state of affairs, means of knowledge. Knowledge of facts that would naturally lead an honest, prudent person to make inquiry constitutes notice of everything which such inquiry pursued in good faith to disclose. So I guess a notice begins from the mind, is what I'm saying.
Right.
From the mind, I think that's
Right. Why? Because the notice had to be written by somebody. That's why people who do copy and paste stuff, it doesn't work. Because it has to be, if they're gonna receive the notice, it's supposed to be coming from the mind.
there must be an understanding.
There has to be. right? Just like there has to be an understanding of God for somebody to say that they're religious or whatever. But God better not be out there. As soon as you go in the external for inspiration, you just play yourself. Then you're outside yourself for inspiration. That's outspiration. Right? There's a little more about
the result of observation too. That's another thing. Is when you observe, I guess someone's action or a group's action is like when you observe anything, it's where are you within that knowledge? You don't really know how far along the knowledge you go to that thing that you're studying.
Right.
How deep is that? Right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Inspired by the lofty teachings of the Quran, we have it as the revealed word of God Allah. We should foster the principles of its teachings among our members. This is our religious privilege as American citizens, and not U.S. citizens, not USA citizens, as American citizens. And American citizens because he's talking about our own Aboriginal indigenous government, because the Americans were the copper-colored natives that the Europeans found here. This is our religious privilege as American citizens under the laws of one of the greatest documents of our time, the American Constitution. And again, with the people that's keeping Noble Juali in some box of this is just some religious thing, Noble Juali is acknowledging one of the greatest documents of all time, the American Constitution. Not the USA Constitution, not the U.S. Constitution, the American Constitution. And if he's talking about American Constitution, he's talking about the original one. That had to do with why is it even that these Europeans came here and are doing whatever they're doing here? Because they have to get permission from somebody.
And that's the one.
Right. And that's the Constitution that's connected with the treaty. Right. And then like what you mentioned with when you're dealing with the brother and you just lay down the treaties. Go check that if you think what is being said is a fiction. Right? Or this is some guessing or whatever. Right? One of the greatest documents of all time, the American Constitution. And again, that's Moorish leaders' historical message to America. And that's in the Moorish literature book. And we'll just ask if anybody has any questions, you can ask those right now. Chat people, I'm on the chat. If you want to send questions, feel free.
My reference back to Laura's example, sense of information. And the Provincial Offensive Act, they use that format to use the information. That's how these officers file their information to support. What I've noticed on some of mine is that it's a third party. It's another officer laying the information based on what the officer who was present at this incident. So now that just means that no one's fraud. The officer who was laying the information didn't witness what happened.
Right.
He has no idea.
So he has no real. He has no real.
So it's not a proper notice. Seems
right.
So you have to put them on notice. Right. Took about notice because this guy wasn't present.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because if you don't speak against it, what happens?
Yeah, the acquiescence is what it is. You know, so and it's with anything with them. You know what I mean? Once you start engaging with them, you know, they realize where you're at based on the engagement. You know, so if you're learning and applying and things are changing, then it's because of your knowing and applying why things are changing. It's not them, or, you know, you had the secret watermark on the paper that made them or whatever like that. You put the perfume on the paper and that made them back up. It's the energy of what you're putting into it. You know, because it should be, you know, the energy what you're putting to it, but then you have the, you know, spells on top of that. So like, in fact, you know, there was times where if I'm going to tribunal, I have prosecutors' name in my shoe on a paper. Just so.
How did that turn out?
Ask the prosecutor. You know, right? Just so that they're getting stepped on every time. And just, you know what I mean? Like just little, you just go out there and just find spells. Stuff that people do for whatever. You know what I mean? And you put them on your frequency. You know? And again, sometimes, you know, you might catch the tadpole. Sometimes you catch sharks and stuff like that. You know,
be prepared.
Be prepared, depending on the bait that you use. You know. So let me see. One question. My question is, how do I go about getting hired with my free national name and no SSN and being a citizen of U.S? So, just like with, you know, and this is you know, advanced answer, right? Just like with right to travel. When people ask the question, how do you right to travel? You know, we want to know the process of the right to travel. Open the door, put the key in the thing, turn the thing, it's going to make a noise. And then, or you just have these things that they're, you know, you might not have heard this word before, you know, legs, right? And then they go like this, and then you right travel that way. Or you can get a thing, and this thing that has two wheels or whatever, and then it has a seat, and then you get on there, and then you can go anywhere. You know, right? How do you get a job with a free national name? You apply in your free national name. Now, you know, if you're going to work for one of these corporate democracy agencies, then you might not have too much success, because they already know if they hire an Aboriginal Indigenous individual, that they have to pay the tax of that individual they're hiring. And they're probably not going to want to pay your tax. So they might not give you the job. And then it's not on them, because, you know, if you were them, would you pay your tax? I wouldn't. If I was a corporation and somebody came there and talked about hiring me or whatever, what, I can't pay my tax. You have to pay it. And then I'm hiring them on a salary that once they get the job, they might be here for 50 years or whatever. And I'm paying their tax. And then they can possibly let everybody else in this corporation know that, hey, you know what? All you have to do is say you're indigenous or whatever. These people can't tax you. I probably won't have a business. right? And then I'll go in there. So, yeah, you can put on your free national name to try to get a job with these corporate whoever's, but if you look at it from the perspective of if you're a Moor and you're independent and fearless and all that stuff, why are you going to them? You should be going to your own whatever. But then you look around and there's none of your own whatever. Now you have to start asking questions of people who are claiming authority in this. Especially if you're a member of that. That you've been at this temple or whatever, and this guy's been Grand Chief for 20 years. 20 years this guy's Grand Chief? Now you got nothing to show? And he's still sitting there like he's somebody, not asking no questions. That's why we're in the situation that we're in. Or you could just, study the law that governs contracts and recognize that if you're a Moor and this is your land, you have a right to contract in your own land. And if you have a right to contract in your land, and then the people who you're contracting with are colonists and inquisitionists, it's probably better to use a straw man when engaging them. If they're going to say guillotine, better they cut the straw man's head off than the free national's head off. If they're going to say, death sentence, better it be the straw man. Better be the straw man. Don't let them say, oh yeah, crime was committed. We have to cut your hand off, and then your hand is going on the block. Let them cut off the straw man's hand. Right?
And the ultimate goal is to have your own business, for everyone to have their own business. That way, together, we can put together a real Wall Street.
Exactly. And that's the direction that it's supposed to go. You know what I mean? But everybody has to be on that wavelength to see that vision of, oh yeah, support our own. Like if I want something, I'll ask my own first, instead of asking someone outside who we know, just like how you hear the blacks mad with the Koreans. They got the nail shop in their community and they're not giving nothing back and all that. Open your own nail shop. You wouldn't have no problem. Oh, but you don't want to open your own nail shop because Negroes, they don't want to work. They don't want to look good or whatever like that. But they want to be the kings and queens of the whatever, but they don't want to do the peasant work to get to king and queen. They just want to be thrown under their high horse or whatever. And it doesn't work like that. You gotta put in your dues. How do I go about getting or making a fez? You can talk with Brother Jed, if Brother Jed's on the chat. His wife is in the process right now of making fezzes. So you can check Brother Jed. He has a YouTube page too, DJED. What are some things we could do to solve some of our economic development issues without the use of fiat? Barter is the only option. Barter is the only option. But everybody has to be able to, the issue is that, like when Noble Drew Ali was around, we had our own manufacturing. But if we're going to a colonial power or manufacturing, they're probably going to want their fiat before they give up the goods. So it's somewhere fiat's going to come into place. It's going to be needed some way, shape, or form.
There's one other option too. Charity.
What's that?
Charity.
Yeah, charity. Yeah.
You can work towards helping your brother out on something that he needs.
Yeah.
That you have the ability to help him on.
Right.
From the perspective of just helping him.
Just helping him get whatever done. Yeah.
And you may not have use of what he's got right now. You don't, he doesn't have use of what you've got. Hopefully that is paid forward.
Yeah, yeah.
That's another perspective, right?
Yeah. Anybody else have any questions? Let's check this track thing.
Yeah, it's a statement. It's cool for it's positive, when you know for yourself really what's up, because me sort of reasoning, and I know them for a long time, and they're out to me. I asked them, they know about masonry, and they just said, that it's all a cult. And then they just said, and all it's a money making thing. And I'm like, you know what? It's a money taking thing, excuse me, it's a money taking thing. I'm like, you know what? For you to say that, you have to first comprehend what is money, and then you have to comprehend what's the purpose of it.
Yeah.
And then code is like, that word's in culture.
Yeah.
Regardless if people know what it is or whatever thoughts of it, there's performing they're trying to make it. There's no nationality reference for yourself. I mean, you say that people say you're not going to get all your mind with it, all your mind with it.
This article by Caitlin Compari, Kaitlyn Compari. Caitlin Compari, The Moorish Science Temple of America and the Legal System, exploring the need to take proactive measures against radical members of an incorporated religion. The Moorish faith, or the movement, spread across the country during the 1920s. The movement reached Detroit, Pittsburgh, New York, Philadelphia, and then Chicago in 1925. Within each city, the faith had several structured branches. When the faith reached Chicago, Noble Drew Ali moved there, and the movement had its greatest force. Drew donned the red fez and stood in the streets of Chicago. He declared that the people of color were not Negroes, colored folks, black people, or Ethiopians. Rather, the people were Moorish. His proclamation gathered a crowd. Proclamation was Moorish, or the people of color were Moorish. Footnote: Noble Drew Ali has been compared with Marcus Garvey, founder of the Universal Negro Improvement Association. Drew considered Garvey an inspiration. Drew thought of Garvey as a voice in the wilderness on the issue of racial pride, an orator and prophet who had prepared black people to be receptive to Ali's own message. Garvey was specifically lauded as a John the Baptist who prepared the way for the coming of Noble Drew Ali at Moorish Science Temple meetings. Similar to the Garvey and the UNIA movement, Drew preached the importance of developing unity among all people of African descent. While Drew used many of the same tactics to attract and maintain followers, there were differences between Drew and Garvey. The UNIA, a black nationalist fraternal organization which sought to be social, friendly, and charitable, was predominantly Christian and adopted many Christian rituals in its meetings. Drew focused on his belief that people of color, all blacks, Asiatics, Turks, Arabs, and Latin Americans, were all of Moorish origin. Super unity.
That's the thing that when people ask certain questions, you just know where your mindset and your program. Like they ask, "Oh, what's your religion?" They want to know your perspective.
Yep.
You're not dividing yourself.
Exactly. Exactly. Soon Noble Drew Ali obtained a meeting hall in Claiborne Avenue on the north side of Chicago. Noble Drew Ali and his congregation began meeting there. In addition to the meeting hall, the Moorish Science Temple had street orators, allowing the faith to reach people in different capacities. This is what some Caitlin, whoever, found out about the Moorish movement. These people were not sitting in no temples talking about prayer or whatever. All the people were on the street if they were Moors and they were pushing this info. Right? They weren't praying and all that. The members of the faith had badges and membership certificates, which provided them with a feeling of belonging. The quick expansion of the Moorish Science Temple of America stemmed from the search for identity among Black Americans. Under their leader, Noble Drew Ali, the congregation considered themselves to be Moorish Americans. The Moorish Science Temple soon gained recognition and received validity from beyond just its members. It also gained the religious freedom accorded to all recognized religions. The Moorish Science Temple of America gained religious freedom according to all recognized religions. Noble Drew Ali wasn't talking religion. He was talking nationality and birthrights. So he was talking nationality and birthrights and got afforded for the Moors the same religious freedom according to all religious organizations. Moorish Science Temple of America has that.
Yeah, that's not tied back to exactly what I was saying, which is what the ruling issue is, which is tying yourself to that religious law that seems to be running the show here. Right?
Right.
So from that perspective, that's what is common because these guys are running
a religious show. So let's be religious too.
He's now gotten us on that level. Right? And we're being recognized in that corporate, ecclesiastical, whatever.
Idea. Yeah. And that was from the 20s. And the only reason there's issues now because again, people not doing what it was they were supposed to do. So that it would be accepted to all that when we say Moors, we have the same religious freedom that everybody else, but don't tie us to some religion. Because our thing is about we're not Negro, black, colored, we're Moors. It's not we're not Christian, Buddhist, whatever, we're Muslim. That's not what our lessons are. That's not our perspective. Right? You had something else, Omar? Anybody else have any questions? Check this chat quick fast. All right, Moors. Islam, once again, welcome to Moorish Science Temple of America, Moorish Holy Temple of Science, Moorish Divine National Movement. We're going to be having what we have on deck coming up.
We have the Moorish Culture Club's Feminine Energy Appreciation Weekend.
Oh, you want to just talk about that for a hotness? Yeah, that's what you know.
Just from the perspective of seeing that, in my perspective, I've been involved in this movement for the last 7 years, 7 years now, and realizing that if we're really about uplifting the feminine energy, why aren't we doing things like that? Why haven't we done things like that? So it came to me that in terms of bringing back our culture, one of the things that I thought of is that all the other so-called religious religions that we have now been identified with, they're all honoring the gates in their own way, whether it's Easter, Christmas, whatever they are, Thanksgiving, it's all being honored. They're disguising it. It's their stuff. So what we're looking to do through Moorish culture is bring us back to our culture. So part of me has got to imagine the same way they have Mother's Day. And I thought to myself, what is Mother's Day? How come Mother's Day happens on a Sunday? How come that's the same rest day that everyone else gets? Shouldn't Mother's Day be on a Friday? on a Tuesday, on a work day, shouldn't they be getting paid? Shouldn't once a month be Mother's Day? As an example, if we're really serious about this, that's where we would be. So from my perspective, I thought that what we should do is tie one of the gates to the feminine energy and let us show some appreciation. So our plan is to set up a day or 2 days, maybe we'll start with a day this year, where we look after their offspring and we sort of get a couple of activities as well as a meal to sort of show our thanks and appreciation for everything they've done. And that's going to be this September 20th or 21st, which is right in line with the autumnal equinox. And it will be inclusive of a meal. Saturday, it will be inclusive of a meal and some sort of other couple of activities, as well as on the other side, looking after their offspring, and maybe having activities set up for the offspring, educational activity that is sort of Aboriginal and Indigenous in its nature. So that's what we're going to be doing on the 21st, that weekend of the 21st, which will also culminate with the women's hair show, right?
Yeah. The textured hair show, the Toronto Naturals hair show is on the 23rd of September, and we vend that every year.
So I've been there
so
for the
that's
last
just
3 years,
another.
and that's quite an interesting thing to push.
Yeah.
So I don't know, are you going to be speaking there this
I
year?
emailed them about it. I don't know if they're having any workshops or whatever. It might
So the
just
last
be
2 years he's doing workshops. He'd come in, he'd set up, and he'd go do his lecture, and then people would come around. It was a great way to sort of interact with that other thing. Well, another dynamic in our culture. And then in October we're going to Montreal. Where? For Montreal? Yeah. October 7th is that weekend. So we're looking to either go. I'm hoping and want to really hopefully try to go. Leave the Friday afternoon around noon 1. Get there, settle in, have lecture Saturday, come back Sunday. That's how I'd like to do it. Traditionally, sometimes in the past, we've left Friday night and then gotten there 11, 12, and then you wake up and sort of have a few little hours, and then you go to the lecture spot and set up and you can do it. So we've got some Moors in Ottawa and Montreal who, through us going there again and again for the last 3 or 4 years, have their own study group now. Has 8 people there. We've got a Moor now in Montreal who's got a property that he's looking to want to try and it's got some properties where they've got like a studio and maybe a printing press, and was all done out of the energy when we went down there in October. When you came to Ottawa, you didn't come to Montreal. You missed it. I know he's not. I know he's for it. And I know he's not. So ultimately, what we're looking to do, and this is part of what the movement was about too. We all know this in our own lives. We go and spread this light. It's like you're carrying around the light, right? It's like a candle. If someone wants to come up with a candle and put their candle to it, you can light their stuff. And then they can go and keep the light, right? That's really, if you think about it on that level, that's really what it's about. You're carrying the light. If they want to receive the light, they'll take it and then they go pass it on, right? So what we're looking to do is go down to Montreal in October and sort of acknowledge the brother who says he's looking to do something out there.
Why not you go like 2 p.m., so that we get out there like,
well, yeah, I say this. Let's be honest, even better would be there like 11 here to get there for like 3 or 4, miss rush hour, settle in.
Even before that.
Oh yeah, 10 o'clock. So anyway, so here's the thing. We've done this before. We arrange it, but like we told you before, we've had some situations where you got a bunch of Moors and then one guy doesn't go, and then a bunch of other Moors don't go. So what we've been trying to do is evolve that into a better way of hopefully being able to accommodate Moors who want to go, because not all Moors have conveyances. The Moors that do have conveyances, if they're taking 5 people, then that Moor who has a conveyance doesn't go. And 5 people all of a sudden are without a ride, right? So we're just hoping to try and evolve, and so that people that are committed who are being the conveyance operators, they need to hopefully be very serious about this, because they also have the charge hopefully bringing a few of us other Moors there. And then it's really about, we're going out east, we go see, we've got a guy in Calgary. If you build it, we will try to attend. Sure. Udo's going away on the 29th because some Moors, and this is what he does, some Moors are going to compensate me.
Yeah, don't worry about that.
Well, right, I'm just saying that from a perspective of for all Moors who, you know, if we're looking to get the knowledge there, we'll try and do as much as we can to get there within our ability.
Whatever we can do,
So that's that in October, and then, that's that. And then next week, I'm starting up, the committees are looking to be starting up. We're looking to also have a town hall again, what Tesla is planning. I don't know if they would say my perspective whether it has to be town hall, but the committees now are looking to, we had our meeting, all who were there for the town hall. We're looking to get these committees now up and running in terms of getting them, having meet, and there's come to us with one thing that they're planning to do, let's say within the next 6 months. And then hopefully, right, like the creature that has multiple things going on. You got, let's say you guys will look after the washroom, we'll look after the kitchen, the other group will look after the, right, and then hopefully the house gets clean.
Right.
So that's how we're, that's what we want to do on the internal side. Right, so we have the external, hopefully appreciating the feminine energy, what do you call it, the good works by going and traveling, sending it out there, and then in-house, fixing our house. Right? And then one other thing, just to all the Moors with dues, I know we've been down and out for the last month, but we're hoping that, because obviously this place is going to be a little bit more fiat people running right now until we get our own spot. So we're hoping that those Moors who are behind over the next couple of weeks, you can come to me or Khalid and sort of at least get caught up with the dues or continue on with the dues. Because it's, and you know, we can have those meetings about what this place is about double the cost, if not a little bit more, towards running this. And what we're hoping then is we have space here. And hopefully you Moors who are members can come and utilize in certain dynamics. So if you've got something you can teach now, you have a place to come and teach it. Right? So, or if you, whatever it is, but you know, we know this, right? Like I can look at something, I go back to my place and I don't have room to do something. You might want to put a chest of drawers out here and build it. You might, you know what I mean, assemble a car, you know what I'm saying, that you consider there's a place now, and you can come and meet with 15 people here. You have to get some coffee shop, or some whatever, right? I don't know. Yeah, so that's it for now.
There's still, there were some questions in the chat about, there's still people, wanting clarity because of consular courts and whatever. So one thing that was brought up is did Noble Juali go to the consular court to do anything for Moors or whatever like that? You read all his literature and you find it in there. Find it in there, then he probably did it. If you don't find it in there, then more than likely you didn't have nothing to do with anything like that. Right? We already put from the perspective of Article 3 and the constitutional obligations that these foreigners have. It's really based on us being ourselves. Right? There's no Moorish National Guard that's going to go pick these people up that are European foreigners that are violating Moors. And the individuals who we're dealing with, if we know that they're U.S. democracy and they're not the legitimate government, then there's no need for us to be dealing with them in any capacity as far as, you know, us going to them to get something or whatever like that.
Well, you look at it, that Republic form of government is active,
Right.
and it's not, it hasn't been active.
So we're not dealing with the Republican form of government right now. So we can't really bring Republican form of government talks to them like that. Like we can, but it's really on the aspect of just showing them their obligations. Not that they would act or not, because they're fraud. Why would they act? You know they're not gonna act. They don't act on Moors who got them sued right now. You know, but they've also shut the hell up when some Moors sued them. So it's not like it doesn't work or we don't have the power to do certain things or whatever. You know, the issue is that people who are coming into this nation with a premature mindset, and they want to jump the whole long jump pit to win. They're not looking at where the last guy jumped and tried to do that. They want to jump the pit. Well, that guy only jumped 2 feet. The pit's 20 feet. Why are you going to exert your energy to jump 20 feet when you could just jump 3 feet and we have this stuff locked up tomorrow? And then the best way to do that is everybody get on the same mindset. Forget what anybody new is telling you about something that they started yesterday and that's going to be the savior of the Moors. Go back to being a nation. Juali said we are a nation. Period. That's it. If you're a nation, start being a nation. You don't need some organization or association to help you do something or whatever. You're a Moor, you know Moors, get with those Moors and get some shit done. And that's it. Because, you know, like we say with the pyramids, you know, it was the giants who were able to lift the 2-ton bricks or whatever. You know, 50 guys pulling no brick up some freaking incline of a pyramid, 50-ton bricks. You know how much guys you need to pull that? Or you better have the thought power to just blink and then all those, and then you build a pyramid in 2 seconds.
That's what he's using.
Right? So for people who are confused about consular court, it's probably because you're not studying. But if you're studying, it would be very clear to you that there are people right now in the Moorish movement who are on the come up. And they're going to do anything that they can, say anything that they're going to say, connect with whoever they can connect with, give them whatever they have to give them to get them on their side for them to be backing whatever BS that they're pushing. And don't get fooled with the people who are following people. Deal with the people who just came yesterday that you never seen these people before. They're coming around telling you about, yeah, you know what I mean, we gotta be part of this and part of that or whatever. You don't see them in fezzes. If they got a fez, the fez sitting on the table and they're sitting there teaching you something and the fez sitting on the table, they're not wearing that. They're just gonna let that sit on the table right there. And they're telling you about more is this and more is that and more is this and be a part of the temple and whatever. But the fez is sitting on the table that they're supposed to be wearing. Or they're part of the Moorish Science Temple that you can't wear your fez when you're outside the temple because they own them. And they're trying to get them to own you. And Ojwali told you your own's going to put you in slavery or whatever. But again, you know, people not studying or whatever. That's why they get themselves in slavery by their own. And then the ones who are actually doing what's supposed to be done, they don't support them. They got BS to talk about. They're not doing. I tried to buy a book and it didn't come yet. I tried to get a car and it didn't come yet. And they're crying about something. And then people who really raping them, they're just giving up the booty and giving up the neck and giving up whatever it is that these people are claiming to give up. So that the Moors could be free on some, you know, whatever. Not reality. We already know we're free. You hear Darrell's coming up here and doing prayer and stuff like that. What do you need consular court for when he knows a perk? Like, what do you need?
Good.
You know what I mean? What is it?
It's for foreigners.
If we're not foreigners, what do we need that for? You know, I get it. You know what I mean? I get it. I get it. Re-establishing what was taken away. I get it. But the foreigners are supposed to be doing that, not us. The foreigners should be setting up the Moorish consular court so when they deal with Moors, when they interact with them, there's a Moor, yeah, can I get your ID or whatever? Oh, you're a Moor? Well, I'm going to give you a ticket for something or whatever like that. Okay, well, if we go to a ticket, then we go to consular court. We're not going to these tribunals or whatever down here. Because it's for them. They're the ones that took the oath to the Constitution. I didn't take, Moors take no oath to no Constitution. Which Moors took the oath to the Constitution? That's all it's there for. Enforce it. We didn't sign nothing. But yeah, we enforce that. Hold them to their obligation. And then that's what they should be doing. But again, the consular court can't say more should be impressing on the democracy people to start a consular court and all that stuff, because the people who are talking like that are new. When they said about extract people from prison or whatever like that, the person who's the head of the thing didn't go to get somebody extracted. How is there news going on that, hey, Amor got kidnapped or whatever? He's a member of the council or whatever.
They went and tried to take him.
And let's go get him out. And everybody's going down there to get him out, except the guy who's the head of the stuff. Why is the head dude not going? Why is he not going? How come the head dude's leaving town while people are going to go extract somebody?
Leading the charge.
Shouldn't he be leading the charge? Or if he's not leading the charge, then what's oh, you gotta play catch because you gotta work tomorrow or something? Or what like, why did you have to leave? Why couldn't you cancel your stuff to go help with the extraction? And then people who go to get people extracted or whatever, right? When we say, I heard you guys did extraction or whatever. You got some papers? I heard that you guys extracted 7 people. Where's the videos at? You guys putting up videos about all this other BS confirming and you know, the consular court is needed because of whatever. Okay, I heard 7 people got extracted by consular court from getting kidnapped. Do a class on them people. Like I said, we showed, you know, Brother Laundry could show his case where he got his stuff dismissed, he got his transcripts and all that. No consular court, didn't go in there. You guys violate my charter rights. The hell out of here about I need to show you a license to prove who I am. I don't have a license. It expired. I got a nationality card. Either you're accepting that or, you know, then do whatever it is you're going to do. Fine, we're going to accept it. Case dismissed. Oh yeah, he's not even from here. He's from Africa or whatever. He's saying he's a Moor over here beating these people in court. Kick their ass in court. Prosecute everybody. Mad, eye out to here, busted lip, all that stuff. Just because. There's no consular court to deal with these Europeans. The consular court deals with these Europeans.
That's what somebody's saying?
No, that's the whole point of consular court. To deal with these Europeans, because these Europeans are out of order and they need to deal with or whatever. You need that to deal with these Europeans? If you need that to deal with these Europeans, then clearly those people are novices. Because all you need to know is the truth about your nationality and birthrights and stand on your square. That's what we're talking. Oh, you always use European, you better stand on your square. You don't even hear people say stand on your square anymore. Peep that. When's the last time you heard somebody say stand on your square? That's becoming like a maxim. That's just, you know. That was something to say 4 or 5 years ago. Stand on your square. Everybody was stand on your square. All of a sudden, no, don't stand on square anymore. You can be passive. Stand on your circle. Right? So again, you know, it's not a thing of, you know, this something or whatever like that. More you study, we're just looking at it from a different perspective. You know what I mean? Like we study. We know. We know more is like Mario LV. He doesn't care that he did 15 days, 20 days in the hole or whatever, standing up for his birthrights. Give me a little consular part. Yeah, I go in the hole for my birthrights. You guys not making me that straw man over there. You're not making me a straw man. I don't care what you guys do. Put them in the hole. No big deal. No calling up the teachers, the master. Hey, I got kidnapped. Come and help me or whatever like that. No, none of that. Not needed. Not needed. Just being a more. Just being a more. That's all. And again, if you're on consular court, you know, it's there. Go do your thing. But you know, that's for novices. If you're an adept or you study or you whatever and you going into that, then hey, you know, maybe you're not really, you don't got it all together. Because there's people who are exercising birthrights, nationality without some consul or whatever. And they are fine. They've been exercising right to travel past 5, 6 years. Highwayman stop them, they give them nationality card. Mr. Bay, have a nice day. Sorry to bother you. No consul or anything. Got their own tags on their stuff and all of that. There are no issues with these Europeans. The only people who try to get out of stuff wanna the Europeans so we can relate to them on the level of the whatever. They relate to nothing. You guys don't have no jurisdictions. Pretty simple. That's just what it is. Don't get mad. Don't try to force your hand because you got a gun, a badge, and all that stuff. You don't care about that. Death is not no enemy to man. What are you talking about? You got a gun and badge. You're worried about something. You're worried about, oh, you guys got jail and all that stuff. What do you mean? Who was it that went in there? What are these morals telling me about? They went to court. They're telling everybody in the court what's going on. In the jail, what's going on. Like telling everybody what's going on. Just giving the goods up. Yo, what are you in here for? Traffic ticket. Traffic ticket? Like, I'm in here for murder. That guy's in here because he did whatever. That guy's in here for armed robbery or whatever. That guy's in here for whatever. You're in here for tickets? Then what do you mean you're in here for tickets?
That's true.
Tickets? That's what you're here for? I need to hear your story or whatever, because no way you're in here with the murder and like, what are you really? What tax did you evade or what's your story? You know what I mean? Oh yeah, you know we're more, whatever. Tutus. This man's out of there. Out of there. We can't have you here. What do you mean you can't have me here? What do you mean? Well, because you're rebel rousing the inmates and they're asking for stuff that they shouldn't be asking for and they're whatever like that. We can't have you here. While everybody's in their cell and all that type of stuff, he's there walking around all over the place or whatever like that. He can do anything that he wants.
Whenever he's me, just have to please me.
Right?
Just leave.
Just leave.
I'm here giving them knowledge, giving them thoughts.
Can't have you here. And again, that's going back to how real are you about you say that you're a Moor? If you're real, then hey, ancestors will step in, you know, colonizers trying to, yeah, well, you know, the ancestors pulled their chair off. You got them falling on, all types of stuff going on. The European wouldn't even know what to do. Everywhere they go, spirits following them. Make them leave you alone. But only if you're in tune with your ancestors and all that. So Islam to all the Moors. Brother Durrell, you ready? You ready, bro? You ready for your mission? All right, let's do it. Oh, you have to tell everybody to stand up. Okay, keep trying. Sorry. Allah to on the right. Allah of the universe. Allah of truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Allah is my protector, my guide, and my salvation. By night, and by day, who is holy prophet, Muhammad Islam. Thank you, Dora. Yes, sir. So that's the one. So tell them Islam. All right. Choose the one.
Hello.